Wave of silence swept across the training arena. Marcus froze for half a second, surprised that his full power punch had missed completely. That brief moment was all Ethan needed. He didn't attack. Instead, he calmly stepped back into a balanced stance, his hands relaxed at his sides. The spectators exchanged confused looks. Did he just dodge that? One applicant whispered. No, Marcus never misses, another replied. Marcus cracked his neck and smirked. Lucky move. Ethan simply nodded. Maybe. The answer irritated Marcus even more. He rushed forward again, this time throwing a rapid combination of punches and kicks that had defeated countless professional fighters. His strikes were fast, powerful, and relentless. Yet Ethan moved as if he had seen every attack before it happened. A slight turn of his shoulders. One small step backward. A smooth pivot to the left. Every punch cut through empty air. The crowd's laughter had completely vanished. Even the security instructors leaned forward in disbelief. Victoria Hayes watched through the glass with growing curiosity. This isn't luck, she murmured. Her security chief nodded slowly. No, ma'am, that's experience. Marcus's breathing became heavier. Frustration replaced confidence as another kick failed to connect. You think you're funny? Marcus growled. I don't, Ethan answered calmly. You're leaving your right side open every time you overcommit. Marcus's eyes widened. Only highly trained fighters noticed mistakes like that in the middle of combat. With a roar, Marcus launched his strongest spinning back kick. The room gasped. Ethan stepped inside the attack at the perfect moment. His left hand gently redirected Marcus's leg while his right palm struck Marcus's shoulder with precise timing. It wasn't a hard hit, but it completely destroyed Marcus's balance. The massive fighter stumbled several steps before crashing onto one knee. A stunned silence filled the arena. No one had ever knocked Marcus off balance during a company tryout. Lily clapped excitedly from the sidelines. Go, Dad. Ethan smiled at his daughter but kept his eyes on Marcus. Are you finished? He asked politely. Marcus slowly stood, his pride badly wounded. You've had training, he said through clenched teeth. A little, Ethan replied. Victoria narrowed her eyes. This quiet maintenance technician wasn't showing off, wasn't trying to impress anyone, and wasn't even breathing hard. Who exactly was he? The timer showed less than a minute remaining in the challenge. Marcus charged one final time, determined to end the fight with brute force. Ethan sighed almost regretfully. As Marcus closed the distance, Ethan slipped to the side, caught his wrist, and used Marcus's own momentum against him. In one fluid motion, the undefeated champion was lifted off his feet and slammed harmlessly, but decisively, onto the padded mat. The impact echoed through the silent arena. The timer stopped. Marcus stared at the ceiling, unable to believe what had just happened. The room erupted, not with laughter this time, but with stunned applause. Victoria Hayes slowly rose from her chair. For the first time that day, she wasn't looking at Ethan as an applicant. She was looking at him as the man who had just defeated her best fighter without throwing a single punch. The applause echoed through the arena, but Ethan didn't celebrate. Instead, he offered Marcus a hand. For what it's worth, Ethan said quietly, you're incredibly strong. Marcus looked at the hand for a long moment before accepting it. Pulling himself to his feet, he shook his head in disbelief. I've never been thrown like that. Ethan smiled modestly. Strength isn't everything. Victoria Hayes stepped down from the observation room and walked across the training floor. Every employee instinctively moved aside. Her sharp eyes remained fixed on Ethan. You said you're an air conditioning technician, she began. I am. And that's all. Ethan hesitated. For the last 6 years, yes. Victoria folded her arms. What about before that? A shadow crossed Ethan's face. That was a different life. Before he could say more, Lily ran over and hugged his leg. Dad, you won. He gently ruffled her hair. We're not finished yet. Victoria noticed the warmth in his voice. The intimidating fighter who had effortlessly defeated the company's champion became nothing more than a caring father the moment his daughter smiled. It was a contrast she couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Marcus walked toward the security chief. Boss, he said quietly, hire him. The chief raised an eyebrow. You sure? Marcus nodded. If someone can beat me without trying to hurt me, that's the kind of bodyguard you want protecting the CEO. Victoria turned back to Ethan. I'd like to interview you privately. Ethan glanced at Lily. She goes where I go. Victoria smiled slightly. Fair enough. Minutes later, the three of them sat inside the CEO's office. Lily happily colored in a notebook while the adults talked. Victoria leaned forward. I checked your application. There are 6 years missing from your employment history. Ethan remained silent, I don't need details, she continued. I just need to know one thing. What's that? If someone threatened my life, would you protect me? Without hesitation, Ethan answered. Yes, and if protecting me meant risking your own life? He looked toward Lily. My daughter needs her father. Victoria expected him to stop there. Instead, he continued, but she also needs to know her father never ran away when someone needed help. The room fell silent. Victoria slowly nodded. For the first time in years, she believed someone was answering honestly instead of trying to impress her. Just then, the office door burst open. An anxious assistant rushed inside. Ms. Hayes, we've got a problem. What happened? The man who sent those anonymous threats. Security cameras just spotted someone matching his description entering the building. The atmosphere changed instantly. Security alarms began flashing throughout the headquarters. Employees looked around nervously. Victoria's security chief reached for his radio. Lock every exit, but Ethan was already standing. His calm eyes scanned the office, every sense suddenly alert. The relaxed single father had vanished. In his place stood a man whose instincts had clearly been forged in situations far more dangerous than an interview. He looked at Victoria and spoke in a steady voice. Stay behind me. For reasons she couldn't explain, the CEO obeyed without a second thought. Outside the office, hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway. Someone was coming, and Ethan was already prepared. The footsteps grew louder with every passing second. Employees hurried into nearby offices, fear spreading through the building. The flashing security lights painted the hallway in red, making the situation feel even more dangerous. Ethan positioned himself between Victoria and the office door. Lily, he said gently, come here. His daughter immediately walked over. He knelt beside her and smiled reassuringly. No matter what happens, stay behind Ms. Hayes. Can you do that for me? Lily nodded bravely. I know the safety rule. Good girl. Victoria noticed how calm Ethan remained. His breathing never changed, and his eyes constantly scanned the room, checking every entrance, window, and possible escape route. The security chief's voice crackled over the radio. We've lost camera feed on the third floor. The suspect may be heading toward the executive offices. A heavy silence followed. Then, bang, the office door burst open. Two armed security officers rushed inside. Ma'am, one shouted, don't panic. We're evacuating you immediately. Ethan didn't move. Instead, he looked carefully at their uniforms. Something wasn't right. The badges, he whispered. Victoria frowned. What about them? They're wearing last year's security insignia. The two men exchanged a quick glance. It lasted only a second. But Ethan saw it. Without warning, one of the fake officers reached inside his jacket. Ethan exploded into action. He grabbed Victoria's arm and pulled her behind the large conference table just as the disguised attacker drew a handgun. A loud shot echoed through the office. Glass shattered behind them. The second fake officer charged forward, but Ethan met him halfway. He twisted the attacker's wrist, forcing the weapon onto the floor. With one smooth movement, Ethan drove his shoulder into the man's chest. The attacker crashed into a bookshelf, books flying everywhere. The first gunman fired again. This time Ethan grabbed a nearby office chair and used it as a shield, deflecting the shot long enough to close the distance. One precise strike to the attacker's arm sent the pistol sliding across the floor. Another controlled move pinned the man face down before he could fight back. Within seconds, both attackers were helpless. The office fell silent except for the sound of heavy breathing. Real security officers stormed into the room moments later. We've got them, the chief shouted. They quickly handcuffed the two disguised men. Victoria slowly stood, still trying to process what had happened. You knew they were fake. Ethan nodded. They walked like trained attackers, not security guards. And real protectors never point their weapons toward the person they're supposed to save. The security chief stared at Ethan with newfound respect. Who are you? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Finally, he reached into his wallet and handed over an old identification card. The chief looked at it, and his eyes widened. He immediately stood at attention. Victoria took the card from his hands. Her heart skipped a beat. The faded ID revealed a name she had never expected to see. Captain Ethan Brooks, former Special Forces, recipient of the nation's highest award for bravery. A man officially retired after a classified mission that had nearly cost him his life. Victoria looked back at the quiet single father standing beside his daughter. At last, everything made sense. The maintenance technician had never been an ordinary man. He had simply chosen an ordinary life, until danger forced the hero inside him to return.